6 months from now, if you were to tell me, I know what you did last summer, then you'd have a hell of a lot better memory than me. Let's jump into my review of I Know What You Did Last Summer before I completely forget this entire film. I Know What You Did Last Summer is classified on IMDb as a reboot or remake of the 1997 slasher film I Know What You Did Last Summer, of the same title. But more or less, this is actually a sequel to the I Know What You Did Last Summer and I Still Know What You Did Last Summer films that came out in the 90s. Granted, the naming convention is totally f***ed and is exactly what Scream 5, was making fun of in its satirical dialogue about legacy sequels. Now, I love Scream 5, but I also hate its f***ing title being Scream. I get what it was doing, I get it was a satire. This, however, is not a satire. I honestly do not know why this isn't just called I Know What You Did Last Summer 3. Maybe they thought they couldn't sell enough tickets. Moving on. Okay, so this movie is about 5 or 6 friends, or however many friends, that are involved in an accident that happens on a highway at the beginning of the film. Well, some character dies in this accident, and these 5 friends agree to never talk about this ever again, not calling the police, decide to leave the site of the crime scene. 1 year later, one of our main characters, played by Madeline Klein, receives a note that says, I know what you did last summer, and thus begins the plot of the film. Exactly the same type of plot structure as the first film is in the series. And our characters start to be hunted down one by one by the fisherman in the raincoat or whatever. Sorry for my language. I don't know. This villain character, he, like, the hook and the imagery, like, it is cool, but he's also just kind of lame at the same time. But hey, we've already rebooted, Final Destination and Scream and whatever other 90s classic slasher films there are, so I Know What You Did Last Summer it makes sense to come back to this. Of course, the film focuses mostly on our 5 friends, but we get the return of Jennifer Love Hewitt's character as well as Freddie Prinze Jr. in this movie, and a surprise cameo or two that you could probably suss out if you have seen the original films. To talk about this movie, I'm going to start with a couple of pros before I go into the cons. I enjoyed the atmosphere and the feel of the movie, and towards the beginning of the film, it kind of felt like it just leaned into the fact that it's a little bit campy and a little bit cheesy, and I enjoyed that aspect of the movie. I saw it with my wife, and we were able to kind of laugh at some of the overtly bad dialogue. I thought that was actually a charming element of the movie early on when we were watching it. However, as the film continued to progress, it became apparent that it was actually just bad writing. As the film unfolded and the story continued to reveal itself, I don't know, it was bad. The pro to that is that if you go into it with an open mind and you're there with someone that you can have fun with, then you can just laugh the whole time. And though that was maybe not the intention of the filmmakers, we were able to have a good time watching it. As far as the cast goes, I felt Madeline Klein was the highlight of the film. She actually was the most convincing and seemed to have a good understanding of how to translate this dialogue and the tone of the film. Her lines were just delivered in a more believable way, and she was definitely by far the most interesting character in the film. The other main lead in the film, played by Chase Sui Wonders, who is in The Studio on Apple TV, which is a fantastic show, she was a real boring character to me. It was very hard to get into her performance and her character arc in general. Unfortunately, beyond Madeline Klein, I felt the remaining 4 other friends were really just kind of bland and boring characters. They didn't have a lot to bring to the film, and this is a combination to me of not just the bad writing, but I feel like bad directing. And this film was directed by Jennifer Caton Robinson, and the execution of the tone and the type of performance she was trying to get out of her actors was just inconsistent. And I think that became very noticeable as the movie went on. And particularly Freddie Prinze Jr. Honestly, I was excited to see this movie because of him and his reprisal. But man, his delivery was particularly bad. I feel like the movie just continued to go downhill once he was introduced to the film. I said I was going to start with pros. I very quickly got into the cons here. Additionally to that, the actual slasher or horror scenes, unfortunately, just weren't that interesting either. I think it was clear that there was a higher budget to some of this. I felt like some of the set pieces were cool, but the actual kill scenes themselves were filled with just classic tropey things, like the villain just randomly disappearing when someone turns their head and just appearing somewhere else entirely. Classic 90s slasher tropes, but just to the fullest, without really any redeeming tense qualities. The finale of the film was really atrocious, and that killed it a lot for me. If you're interested in just like a shitty movie date night situation, This is perfectly fun for that, and I'm actually glad that this movie got made. I would have rather seen it than not have seen it. If you want to sneak a couple drinks into the theater and laugh with someone, there's plenty to laugh at in this movie. There's plenty to cringe at, and for that reason, you should definitely go see it, and it's a good time. If all that doesn't sound appealing, that perspective, then don't go see it at all, ever. Because you're not going to like the movie. I Know What You Did Last Summer, the 2025 reboot, requel, legacy sequel, whatever the hell this movie is. I'm giving this 1,437 fish hooks out of 3,100 fish hooks. So, it's a lot of fish hooks, but there could have been a lot more fish hooks. All right, did you see I Know What You Did Last Summer? What did you think of it? Do you enjoy it? Did you like the original I Know What You Did Last Summer? And did you feel like this was a proper follow-up? Let me know in the comments below, and thank you for watching the video. Like, subscribe, join my membership program, which will offer you entirely nothing. Anyway, I love you guys. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next video.